The Detroit Lions, man, they are looking like an amazing football team right now, if not one of the best teams in the NFL currently, especially after the win they just had over the Dallas Cowboys. I've liked everything that I've seen from Detroit this year. I've liked their offense, one of the best offenses, if not the best offense in the NFL currently. So creative. I gotta give a huge shout out to Ben Johnson for that. He truly knows what he's doing with this offense. So many different things and so many different players you can go ahead and attack with. The defense, Dan Campbell is doing a great job with that. He has some great players on that side of the football. They have done an amazing job when it comes to drafting on this Detroit Lion team. Everything looks great, and honestly, they look like an elite football team, if not a perfect football team right now. So I honestly felt like this would be the best time to go ahead and make a video on the Detroit Lions, man, because they've looked amazing. They look like one of the best football teams in the NFL currently, and they've looked all around dominant. I felt like this was the perfect time, especially after that dominant win over the Dallas Cowboys. But before I get into it, make sure to like and subscribe. It's very much appreciated. I'm trying to hit 5K by the end of the year, and follow all my socials in the description down there. Twitter, Instagram, even the Real app, because I know some of you guys got the Real app out here, and this is what I use for my videos and most of them, because it's such an amazing app, man. And please go follow my Twitter. If there's not a video on YouTube or on TikTok or anything like that, that's where you get my immediate reaction to what is happening in the NFL, like Devontae Adams to the Jets, Amari Cooper to the Bills, Russell Wilson taking reps over Justin Fields. It was a huge day in the NFL, but I'm gonna stop rambling about that and let's get into the video. Make sure you just follow my socials. So to start off the video, we're gonna talk about all the games that the Lions have played so far. Usually I'll talk about the team first, but I thought we're gonna go in a different order for this video. We're gonna talk about each game and what really won the Lions that game and what really went well for them. So we gotta start with the opening night versus the LA Rams, the playoff rematch, a game that I was very, very excited for, and it lived up to the hype. If you want to talk about some beautiful football, this game had some beautiful football. First off, Cooper Kupp on the Rams, he completely went off, a ton of targets and stuff like that, but that overtime drive for the Detroit Lions was so special. That is some elite run game right there. That is some underrated football. The fact that they were able to run the ball consistently with Gibbs and Montgomery was able to score the game-winning touchdown was such a beautiful thing. They got such an amazing offensive line. This is one of the reasons why I love this Detroit Lion team. The fact that they're able to just run the ball on anyone, I just think it's a beautiful sight to see, and it's very underrated why, like, that's one of the best parts of football, I think, being able to just run the ball that effectively. And then the game after this, they went ahead and they played the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Detroit. Now, this is a playoff rematch from last year. Of course, the first 2 weeks they start off with playoff rematches, which was kind of cool, but now something that people were talking about, oh, the Lions don't look the same because this game they went ahead and lost. Something just looked sluggish about the offense. Things look pretty different. I think this was just truly just the Lions off game because, you know, nothing they could really put together anything. It took Amon St. Brown a good amount of time to go ahead and get going, but he eventually went ahead and got going, and it wouldn't matter because the Lions would go ahead and lose this game. But you know what? They're one loss on the season. Tampa's a good team. Let's get into these other games that they went ahead and won and they played amazing in. They played a bad game week 2, so you already know week 3 they was going to come out with a vengeance. Jared Goff played an excellent game. I mean, 199 yards, 2 passing touchdowns. That one pick was pretty bad, but you know, he still played a great game. David Montgomery with 122 yards, a rushing touchdown. Gibbs had a rushing touchdown, 103 yards. And Amon St. Brown, 75 yards, 1 touchdown. They held the Cardinals to 13 points. The defense played great. As you can see, Lions got a lot of offensive weapons, man. Like, look at all these weapons that they have and they can go ahead and use. They still haven't even mentioned Laporta yet. I haven't mentioned Jameson Williams yet. Just you guys wait. There's the next week where they just had an all offensive masterclass. It was all around beautiful. The game versus Seattle. So far, I've seen a lot of NFL games here. This got to be top 5, one of the best games I've watched. Yes, the Detroit defense lacked in this game. They did make some good plays, but they definitely lacked in this game. Like, Kenneth Walker, 3 rushing touchdowns. He had a ton of rushing yards. Yeah, they did lack in this game, but you know what? It's okay. The defense kind of sucked. I know Dan Campbell went ahead and he's going to go fix some issues because he's like that and he knows what he's doing. The offense played an outstanding game. Jared Goff went 18 for 18. He had the perfect game. I didn't even realize till the end of the game that he had a perfect game. 292 yards, 2 passing touchdowns. Jahmyr Gibbs had 2 touchdowns. Amon St. Brown had a touchdown. Jameson Williams had a touchdown. He had 80 yards. He had a long touchdown play. Jameson Williams is the #1 guy when it comes to being the deep threat on the Detroit Lions. All of a sudden, he can be having a quiet game, and then all of a sudden, he just breaks out and just runs down the field for 50 yards and a touchdown. It's beautiful. Laporta had a nice game. He had 53 yards on 4 receptions. David Montgomery, 80 yards and 1 touchdown. All around an offensive masterclass. They got everyone involved. Khalif Raymond got involved. Brock Wright, Tim Patrick. They got everyone on the offense involved to go ahead and win this game, and they put up 42 points, which is a ton of points. One of the best offensive games I've seen this year, of course. I gotta give a huge shout out to Ben Johnson. He really cooked in this game, and shout out to Jared Goff, and shout out to this run game, man. It was all around amazing. And then they went ahead and had their bye week, and it was like, well, they just had a game where they put up a ton of points, and then they came out the bye. They had another game where they put up a ton of points, but instead of letting the other team score, the defense was absolutely amazing, and they absolutely shut Dallas down. So if you want to go ahead and talk about shutting Dallas down, they held Dak to 178 yards, 2 interceptions, and, you know, a passer rating of 42.2, absolute garbage. They sacked him 4 times, and Dak wasn't Dak whatsoever. It was actually so bad that, you know, Cooper Rush had to come into the game late because there's no reason for Dak to play because he's getting absolutely dominated. They held the Cowboys to 251 yards. Them only points came from field goals. They held them to only field goals. This Detroit defense came to play coming out this bye week. Dan Campbell, I gotta give a huge shout out to you, and as well as the defensive coordinator, man, because you guys were all around cooking. Y'all schemed amazingly versus Cowboy team. And then Jared Goff had another great game, 315 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns, 0 interceptions. David Montgomery had 2 touchdowns on the ground, 80 rushing yards. Jameson Williams once again had that, you know, that big catch play that went for a touchdown. Amon St. Brown, 37 yards, 4 receptions, but he also got a touchdown. And Sam Laporta got a touchdown. Everyone in this offense got a touchdown besides Jahmyr Gibbs. Everybody was eating today. And well, they absolutely steamrolled this Dallas team. And I'm like, man, this is the game right here where I decided I need to make a video on this team because they looked all around elite. They look great. Now, after talking about all these games, I think it's only fair to go ahead and talk about, you know, why this team flows together so well. What is so great about it? What are the aspects of this team that makes everything just mesh together? And one of the biggest things I think it is the coaching. I don't want to sound like an insane Dan Campbell glazer, but you know what? He's one of the best head coaches in the NFL, man. His attitude when it comes to the game of football, it's just perfect, man. I truly love what this man's doing right here. Of course, he cares about his team, cares about every single player on that team. You can clearly tell he deeply cares about every single member on his football team, deeply cares about them. A very emotional guy. And when it comes to a guy like that, having him as your head coach, a tough head coach that deeply cares about your guys, the team's going to flow together well. Everyone's going to have a great culture there in Detroit. They have truly turned around that culture in Detroit with Dan Campbell, man. I give a huge shout out to him. He is the biggest reason why this whole team flows together, why this whole team works. Of course, you know, the players are great there, but like, I feel like the glue to hold it all together is for sure Dan Campbell, man. I gotta even claps up to him, man. He's done an amazing job. And then, of course, they got Ben Johnson, our offensive coordinator, one of the best offensive minds in the NFL when it comes to and then they got Ben Johnson as offensive coordinator. Like I said earlier, one of the best offensive minds in the NFL. And that man also got some loyalty to him too, because he had head coaching jobs he could have went ahead and took this offseason, but he said no. He said, you know what? I'm not gonna take these head coaching jobs. I'm gonna stay with the Lions. We got unfinished business after that NFC Championship loss, and he stayed. I have to admit, for most offensive coordinators, they would have left. They would have went ahead, took their head coaching job, and just left. The fact that he stayed with his team and he wants to go ahead and win the bowl with his teammates and the people that he went ahead and, you know, coached up, I think that's beautiful, man. I think that's really showing how good of a coaching you are, and I think it's really showing how good the Detroit culture is right now. And I honestly think those two guys right there are the glue. And then when you talk about the guy who built everything, Brad Holmes, man, he's done one hell of a job drafting. Ever since he's took over as the GM of the Detroit Lions, with him and Dan Campbell both got signed there, they have been cooking, man. They have been all around elite. They've been put together a great team. They've looked great. They've been putting together a ton of pieces, you know, Jahmyr Gibbs. They've just, when it comes to drafting, I'm gonna put up their draft boards right here and what they've drafted so far. I mean, man, they've hit on some insane picks so far. They've really done a great job when it comes to the drafting side of the football. So when you look at the Lions outlook for the rest of the year, I mean, they got some pretty interesting games. Notice how they haven't played a single division game yet, and those are going to be big games for the Detroit Lions. They have a big one this Sunday versus the 5-0 Minnesota Vikings. This is going to be a great game right here. So far, I picked the Vikings to win coming off the bye week, but who knows, man. Detroit's been playing some great football. I know I made a video talking about the Vikings last week and how they're like the best team in the NFC, but you know what? If there is one team that could go ahead and beat Minnesota, it would be Detroit. I feel like both of these teams right here, these two matchups that we're going to see in the past couple of months, these two matchups that we're going to see, you know, in these next couple of months coming up and next week, it's just going to be beautiful to watch, man. These two matchups are going to be very important going forward. Their first game versus the Bears all the way on Thanksgiving. It's going to be a minute before they go ahead and play the Bears. It's going to see what Caleb Williams does versus them. They got another game versus the Packers. They got games versus Buffalo, San Fran, the Bears again in December, and then they close it out in a game versus Minnesota. So you know what? The road is getting tougher out here. Easier games they have is the Titans in October and the Jaguars, and you know, they got a game versus the Indianapolis Colts. Otherwise, man, they're playing some real and tough football teams. They're going to be playing some tough football. Their division is obviously best in the NFL right now. Everyone has, you know, a good record so far. Everyone has a winning record. Everyone is playing some great football, and I got to clap it up for the NFC North, man. But this is going to be huge for the Lions, these division games. Same thing I said for Minnesota. These division games are going to be huge. You have to go ahead and you have to win this division in the NFC North this year. You got to win it to prove that you are the best team in these divisions, man, because it is going to be very important to have that playoff. It's going to be very important to have that playoff, you know, that atmosphere, that home field advantage when it comes to the playoffs. You're going to want it and you're going to need it. Trust me. I think the Lions are going to win out most of these games. I genuinely believe that, you know, they can win, you know, the games I just mentioned versus the NFC South. Houston, that's going to be a good one right there when they play them, but I definitely think they're going to win more than 10 games once again. I'll say it like I said with Minnesota. This team is good enough that if there was an NFC Championship matchup, man, I would love to see Detroit and Minnesota. I know it'd be kind of hard to go ahead and see what, you know, the standings and stuff like that. They might play each other in divisional round, but man, if there's anyone I want to see right now, if there was anybody I would want to see in the NFC Championship right now, it'd be Detroit and Minnesota. Both teams, no Super Bowl. We know how bad Minnesota is in the Super Bowl. 0-4. They've lost a ton of Super Bowls in the past, and you know Detroit, they haven't even gotten there yet. Having those teams battle it out with a chance to go ahead and win the ring and go to the Super Bowl, that would be a movie. In my opinion, that would be a movie. I'm all for seeing that, man. That would be great. I'm not going to lie to you guys. But I definitely think in the NFC, that would be the best team they can go ahead and compete with. I genuinely think that the best two teams in the NFC right now are Detroit. I genuinely believe the best two teams in the NFC are Detroit and Minnesota. And you guys shouldn't argue with me on that, because, I mean, it should be obvious at this point. But yeah, that's how I feel about the Detroit Lions. They're an elite team. I went ahead and broke them down, man. They look like a great football team. I'm excited to see what they do for the rest of the year. So if you enjoyed the video, please drop a like and subscribe. Very much appreciate it. Like I said, man, uploads are once a week. I got you guys, man. I'm done with the trolling. All right, I'm ready. Crumble Takes is here for the content, man. If you enjoyed, drop a like and subscribe. It's very much appreciated. Watch my video on the Minnesota Vikings last week, and I talked about Sam Darnold's career being revived, and I'll see you guys in the next one.